Hello everybody, my name is Christian, and today we are going to be talking about the defense extraordinaire, Aventurine. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and let's get into it. Hey, pretty short intro, right? Right? For those of you who are consistent fans or watchers of this series, I just want you to know, this will never happen again. Appreciate it. So, this is your reminder, like at the start of all these videos, if you would like to see a video about your favorite character, there are two possible ways to do that. First, you can go to my Twitch channel, and if you have 30,000 channel points, you can redeem it so that I will talk about a character. The other option is you can become a YouTube member at the Aeon level, and you can request a video and I will make it about said character. So, as per usual, if you are already somebody who understands how Aventurine works, you know how his entire kit functions, then I would highly recommend skipping to this part of the video. It'll simply be far more interesting and get you into the content that you want to see. With that said, I hope you guys enjoy. Let's pause real quick and take a brief word from our sponsor, LD Shop. With so many good characters coming out soon, many players simply don't have the jades they need to get them all. Now, if only there was a cheaper way to get top-ups for games like Star Rail and ZZZ. Well, that's where the sponsor of the video comes in, LD Shop. LD Shop is a safe and reliable top-up site for all your favorite games. They offer top-ups at a more affordable price than in-game, and can even activate your first top-up bonus if you haven't used it already. All you have to do is click the bundle you want, put in your server and UID, and your top-up will appear in-game shortly after. If you buy using my link as well, you can get a 5% and 15% coupon good for $50. Last but not least, if you consistently use LD Shop and spend over $80 for the month, you can get an Express Supply Pass completely free on your homepage. Use the link in the description or the pinned comment. Thank you so much to LD Shop for sponsoring. Let's get back to the video. Alright, so as many of you know, we skip basic attacks in these now unless they are a more special basic attack. I wouldn't really define Aventurine's as a special basic attack. There is something I'm going to make note of here. Aventurine's basic attack scales off of his defense percent, not his attack or anything else, his defense percent. Keep that in mind, so you really do not need attack on this character at all. Now, let's get into what Aventurine actually does. He is a preservation character, so that means he is a sustain. He puts shields on his allies to keep them safe. All of his abilities kind of relate to this in some way, shape, or form, and he is a character who is capable of constantly stacking shields to make sure that you are just less likely to die, you're not getting hit at all. And that leads us directly into his skill, Cornerstone Deluxe. Provides all allies with a fortified wager shield that can block damage equal to 24% of Aventurine's defense plus 320, lasting for 3 turns. When repeatedly gaining fortified wager, the shield effect can stack up to 200% of the shield provided by the current skill. I'm gonna be honest, pretty simple. I wish there was more to explain about a lot of what's going on here. There isn't. There really isn't. You get good shield for 3 turns and you can stack shield. That's it. You're good. Honestly, I'm not sure if I've ever talked about a sustain in these videos. I'm really hoping that this is just going to be incredibly easy. It would be a wonderful change of pace. Next up is his talent. We could do ultimate, but I think talent is more important considering the ultimate is directly related to it. So talent, shot loaded right. The effect res increased by 50% for a single ally with fortified wager. And when this allied character gets attacked, Aventurine gains 1 point of blind bet. When Aventurine has fortified wager, he can resist crowd control debuffs. This effect can trigger after 2 turns. Aventurine additionally gains 1 point of blind bet after getting attacked. Upon reaching 7 points of blind bet, Aventurine consumes the 7 points to launch a 7-hit follow-up attack, with each hit dealing imaginary damage equal to 25% of Aventurine's defense to a single random enemy. Blind bet is capped at 10 points. Jesus Christ, oh my god, that was a lot of words. Okay, so this is actually something I might need to explain a little bit. Specifically, effect res. Most people, I feel like, I know effect hit rate. I know people don't really understand what effect hit rate is. Do we know what effect res is? Does the average player know what effect res actually does? I'm just curious at this point. So, effect res. Increasing that by 50% means you now have a 50% higher chance to resist all debuffs. And that doesn't include things like DOT, unfortunately. I am pretty sure you will still take DOT damage no matter what. You know what? I can't say that for sure, but I'm very confident that you will still take DOT damage. But there is going to be things like, well, Lygus has been a big issue recently. Lygus's entanglement. With Lygus's entanglement, if you are hit by it, you lose your action and you're stuck not moving, and then anytime an enemy hits you, it's the same effect as getting Quantum Weakness broken. The damage kind of stacks up a little bit. Effect Res can basically guarantee that you will not get entangled, which means you're not going to lose your turn, you're not going to take that damage, blah, 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 blah. So being able to raise that for a single character, unbelievably helpful. Then let's move on to, let's see. Resist crowd control debuffs. Yeah, that's pretty important. I'm going to be honest, I would recommend just looking it up for yourself, because if I spend this entire video explaining everything, we will be here for 40 minutes. We might be here for 40 minutes either way. The most important part about this is it can trigger again after 2 turns. Some people just straight up don't know that, like even people who have had Aventurine for a very long time. That can actually come up and bite you in the ass at a certain point. So that is very important to try and keep in mind. You can't really manipulate the action value too much on Aventurine, but it's a better thing to know than not. Last but not least, Aventurine's follow-up attack. This is probably the biggest part of the character, and when he was released all the way back in 2.1, this was cinema. This was incredible. This was something never seen before. Now, if only that was still true nowadays. But yeah, so 25% of Aventurine's defense, you get a 7-hit attack. Honestly, pretty good. It does a fair bit of damage. It's not incredible, but damage is damage. And especially for somebody like Fei Xiao loves this, because any attack can contribute to Fei Xiao's ultimate charge, meaning more ultimates because you're just getting hit, Aventurine protects you, and then Aventurine gets to whoop that ass. It's a very good combo. Aventurine is incredible for Fei Xiao, and it's like, I was really hoping Ling Sha would be a solid replacement. It's not the same. It's just not the same. So overall, this follow-up attack really makes Aventurine into what he is on top of just his incredible defensive prowess. So with the talent explained, that takes us into Ultimate, Roulette Shark. Randomly gain 1 to 7 points of blind bet, then inflicts unnerved on a single target enemy lasting for 3 turns. Deals imaginary damage equal to 270% of Aventurine's defense to the single target enemy. When an ally hits an unnerved enemy target, the crit damage dealt increases by 15%. Yeah, so that's really good. A lot of sustains now have some sort of debuff as a part of their kit, whether it's from their light cone, whether it's actually built into their kit, whether it's like a skill or an ultimate. A lot of sustains can inflict something nowadays. Aventurine's is simply incredible, especially with the teams that he specifically runs with. Aventurine is most often running with like Fei Xiao and March. In the context of follow-up teams most often have 2 DPSs, a support, and then your insert sustain here. If Aventurine is that sustain, him having this crit damage debuff is not only beneficial to your main carry, but also your sub DPS. So if you're running Fei Xiao March, they are both going to take massive advantage of this debuff. It is genuinely super nice, and I think this is still one of the coolest things to have on an ultimate. I kind of wish it was applied a bit more to some of the other characters, but hey, who knows? Maybe when buffs come around, I would love to see that. We'd love to see buffs. Oh, also, getting points of blind bet, that does in fact mean that you can trigger your follow-up attack, ult, and then immediately trigger your follow-up attack again, and get all the shields back again. It's incredibly funny. So, I did actually allude to something a little bit there. Whenever Aventurine's follow-up attack goes off, you actually get shields. We will be touching on that very soon. I do want to talk about his technique very briefly, though. His technique is the red or the black. After using the technique, one of the following effects will be granted. There is a chance for defense to increase by 24, there is a high chance for 36, or a small chance for 60%. This lasts as long as his normal shields do, so 3 whole turns. This is kinda sick, I'm not gonna lie. And I do love the fact that it is gambling based. It's kinda funny. Like, they really, really wanted to commit with this character in every aspect, even down to his technique. I really love the design on that. However, I've seen so many people just never get the 60% and they get the 24% like 4 times in a row. It's fucking hilarious, I'm not gonna lie. Like, that's the shit that would happen to me if I had Aventurine, and I would be pissed about it, I'm gonna be honest. Overall, pretty cool technique, and it just, you know, It's also a simple technique. It just gets you into the battle more efficiently. That's all. So now let's talk about major traces. There are 2 of these that I would like to talk about. His hot hand trace is perfectly fine, but I just don't really care to talk about it. It just doesn't have as much intrigue to me as the other 2. So, first of all, we have leverage. Very simple, and you all know this, I am a huge fan of these types of traces. For every 100 of Aventurine's defense that exceeds 1600, increases his own crit rate up to a maximum increase of 48%. Incredible, makes the character so much easier to build. I love this type of trace so much. I have nothing but good to say about it, and I'm very happy that it has become so much more consistent. I would also like it if they stopped giving 100% crit rate to everybody, or actually give it to everybody. But hey, what do I know? I'm fine. The other major trace I would like to talk about is Bingo. After an ally with Fortified Wager launches a follow-up attack, Aventurine accumulates 1 blind bet point. This effect can trigger up to 3 times, and its trigger count resets at the start of Aventurine's turn. Once again, that is important to keep in mind. Some people just straight up do not know that. After Aventurine launches his Talent's follow-up attack, provides all allies with a Fortified Wager that can block damage equal to 7.2% of Aventurine's defense plus 96. And additionally grants a Fortified Wager that can block damage equal to the exact same amount actually, to the ally with the lowest shield effect, lasting for 3 turns. You just never need to skill on Aventurine if you're good enough, I'm gonna be honest. If you have high enough defense, and you are able to output follow-up attacks and just attacks constantly, deadass, you can in fact just never skill on Aventurine. He will just basic attack and that's it, you're done. You can skill on Aventurine, and you might have to skill on Aventurine, but in an ideal world, you actually will never need to skill on Aventurine, which is insane to think about. I'm gonna be honest. This is a silly, silly character, man. This is a silly character. And just based on everything that you've read right now, a lot of Aventurine's usefulness comes from his allies getting hit so that he generates blind bet points. Aventurine against AoE bosses and like enemies, oh my dear god, he is incredible for it. He just gets to get his shields constantly. And against enemies with like not much damage but they do AoE, like the Lady of Crashing Waves' little fish, or Hule's Wolf Troopers, you are really never in danger. It kind of just invalidates all the damage. As long as you can kill the boss, you're fine. And that's fucked up. So that's his basic moveset covered, and now, as per usual, we are going to talk about Eidolons. Now, like I always say, Eidolons are not something that I know everyone can get or everyone will get. However, I do think understanding them and knowing about them is a positive for you and your knowledge overall. More information is only a positive. And also, you never know. Maybe you just get like a random $500 donation in your game. I don't know. Can somebody do that for me? E1, Prisoner's Dilemma. Increases crit damage by 20% for allies with Fortified Wager. After using the ultimate, provides all allies with a Fortified Wager shield, whose shield effect is equal to 100% of the one provided by skill. And say it with me, folks, lasting for 3 turns. Yeah, overall, this is just really good. If you have Fei Xiao and March, Fei Xiao and Cypher, Fei Xiao and Moz, Fei Xiao and Topaz, getting more crit damage is always going to be a positive. This is perfect for follow-up teams specifically. If you are using him on something like DOT, they are not going to benefit from this, unfortunately, but hey, that's okay. Either way, you still get more shields out of it, which that is a positive. E2, Bounded Rationality. When using basic attack, reduces the target's all-type res by 12% for 3 turns. This basically just means you're doing 12% more damage. Like, your entire team is doing 12% more damage to the enemy. Honestly, pretty good. I don't know if that also counts as a debuff for Acheron. I'm actually not sure. I don't know if it counts as inflicting is the problem. If anybody knows the exact answer to that, I would love to know, but either way, that's still pretty good. More damage is more damage. Yeah, we'll talk about the worth of everything later. E3 and E5 are simply ultimate skill and talent upgrades, so we will be skipping those. The names are kind of funny though. We have drop rate maxing for E3 and ambiguity aversion for E5. Kind of based. So that takes us to E4. Unexpected Hanging Paradox. When triggering his talent's follow-up attack, first increases Aventurine's defense by 40% for 2 turns, and additionally increases the hits per action for his talent's follow-up attack by 3. So I would like to remind you all, Aventurine scales entirely off of his defense percent, and it specifically says you first increase your defense percent by 40%. You get basically a 40% defense boost, which is going to increase your overall damage, and you get 3 more hits on your follow-up. That is insane! Now, I really don't think this Eidolon is, like, incredible, because it leans more into his, like, attacking prowess, which I would prefer a sustain to, like, support my overall team a bit more. But it's definitely a funny one, and it can actually be really good. Last but not least, E6, Stag Hunt Game. For every ally with a shield, the damage dealt by Aventurine increases by 50% up to a maximum of 150%. If you've seen my Eidolon ranking videos, you know how I feel about this. It's just, it's just silly. It's just silly if we're being honest. Let's talk about the actual worth of the Eidolons and everything. I personally feel that E1 isn't bad. Again, you would mainly need to be doing this with, like, an Acheron team, or more preferably, like, a Fei Xiao follow-up team, Ratio follow-up team, maybe even Archer if you really want. Just somebody who can actually take advantage of the crit damage. Besides that, it's just more ways to get shields, which is super nice, so it is going to increase your overall survivability. E2. E2 really doesn't seem like much on paper, and again, I think it's not the best. Like, if you were to compare this to, like, E2, I don't know, E2 Fei Xiao, E2 Fei Xiao is definitely going to give you a lot more bang for your buck because of the overall damage increase by just getting more ults out. But this is honestly pretty good. Like, I don't really think this is bad at all. More damage is more damage, and you're going to be using basic attack a lot, so you might as well get something out of it. E3, E5, once again, we don't really care about those. E4, I've already said I think E4 is funny. I don't actually think it's, like, that good, but for all my DPS Aven players out there, hey, this is an essential for you. Would really recommend this. As well as E6. I'm going to be honest, I really don't like this because, like I said, I want my sustains to support my main characters. Why are we just buffing Aventurine's damage? Like, genuine question, why are we just making Aventurine specifically stronger? We couldn't have made another debuff? We couldn't have given even more to allies? Like, we couldn't have given them all, like, respen increase with shields? It's just Aventurine increased damage? Really? Yeah, alright, cool, I guess. So, for the most part, the only 2 Eidolons I would recommend is actually E1 and E2, so, hey, a lot better than some of the other videos we've done where it's like, oh yeah, E1 and then E6. Like, no, E1 and E2, both respectable, both very helpful. I like these a lot. God, these videos are just so much yapping. These videos are just so much yapping. Sorry, hold on, Chad. I'm rizzing somebody up. Let's actually talk about Aventurine as a character. Because, haha, admittedly, I used to hate Aventurine. I don't want to explain this. I just don't like when people are mean to me in the story. It hurts my feelings. To be fair, genuinely, Aventurine just kind of pissed me off during the story a lot. I didn't really get him, and then he tries to fight us, and I'm like, what the fuck are you doing? You were just helping us. What the hell, man? Actually, what the hell? And then, I don't know, I just didn't really like how he carried himself. Overall, it was just a character that kind of just icked me out a little bit. I just didn't fuck with him at all. Over time, my hatred has kind of subsided a little bit, and I kind of like Aventurine a little bit more now. I think he has one of the best backstories in the game, and I think he is also just an incredible unit, to say the least, so my opinion's definitely warped at least a little bit on that. But in terms of more of a meta sense of why I think Aventurine is truly a good character, you know what? No, we're just gonna rip this band-aid off real quick. He's just, like, almost universal, and then HP scaling came in and kind of fucked everything up. Like, HP scaling literally just took everything from Aventurine, and it's kind of unfortunate, because his ability as a universal sustain was genuinely incredible, and, like, unmatched, in my opinion. Back in the day, you know, back in my day, Aventurine was running with Acheron, Aventurine was running with Fei Xiao and fucking Dr. Ratio. He was running with even Herta and a Galia early on. I will say Huohuo was definitely the preferred choice, but either way, Boot Hill was his own entity, but... And then also you could run Aventurine with Jade, and they actually paired really well together. You could run Aventurine with Yuna Li, and that would be good because the crit damage increase, and then just a lot of additional damage because if you fuck up as Yuna Li, you kind of need extra damage from somewhere. Overall, he is just such a good character. And even then, I'm saying like in the past, Aventurine is still good today because DOT still loves Aventurine. He's going to keep them safe because DOT is notoriously squishy. He's going to always contribute to the skill points by just basicking. He's going to be able to make sure that they can use all their powerful abilities. In terms of any other characters, you can use him with Finan. It's definitely not the most popular choice, and I personally wouldn't recommend it too much, but you can use him with Finan. And everybody else is like an HP scaler, so, oh well. Either way, how universal he is genuinely super impressive. And the way he can kind of just fit in to anywhere is nice, but also he does have a clearly defined home that is incredible for him. Like, if you think he's good in other places, use him in a Fei Xiao follow-up team. With the arrival of Danheng PT, that definitely changes things a little bit since Danheng PT is also very SP positive and also contributes follow-up attacks, which can help out a lot for Fei Xiao. But man, his place in that team is simply incredible because of this ult, because of the constant follow-up attacks, so you're constantly helping Fei Xiao. Like, what he does for that specific team, absolutely incredible. And it makes me so jealous of the fact that I don't have him because I wanted Acheron. And to be fair, I love Acheron. I just, she's not as helpful to me nowadays. Either way, he is just so impressive with his ability to fit in and really succeed at what he does. And while his damage is lacking nowadays, considering we have Hyacine. No, your video didn't start buffering. That I genuinely wanted to leave in that silence. I wanted you to think about Hyacine, because that character's fucked. Hyacine hit piece coming soon. Even with the arrival of other characters who can kind of do damage in the sustain category as well, he's still very good at what he does. He is still contributing at least a little bit meaningful damage to your battle overall, and he's making sure you don't die, which, as per usual, is really all you need to care about with sustains. That's really all that matters, and he does it perfectly. Yeah, all in all, I'm not the biggest fan of Aventurine, but his game design is genuinely incredible to me, and I've realized just how good he is with AoE scenarios specifically. It feels like cheating. It actually feels like cheating straight up. You just don't get in trouble ever. Like, oh no, the wolf troopers are hitting me. Aventurine shield. Oh no, Hulai's swinging at us. Aventurine shield. Oh no, I don't know, the bugs are shooting little DOT lasers at us. Aventurine. Like, actually, he lives for the moment with every single one of his allies about to get hit. He lives for it, and that's hilarious. Excelling so much in those scenarios honestly makes him, like, still one of the best choices nowadays to pick up. I don't know when exactly he's gonna rerun. Who knows, maybe this video releases by the time he's getting a rerun, but Aventurine is still an incredible character, even today. Even with the arrival of Danheng PT, don't let that kind of distract you from the fact that Aventurine is still a great character. He can help you and your account, and he is going to help other characters in the future. Sustains are likely to age very, very well. Let's look at Huohuo, for example. Huohuo is still relevant all this time later. Aventurine is still going to be helpful for a long time, so, hey, if you have the chance to pick him up, I would highly recommend doing so. Alright, that's the Aventurine glazing out of the way. Let's get to building teams. In terms of building Aventurine, I'm going to be honest. It's pretty simple. If you can, his personal light cone is by far the best for him. It offers defense percent, it increases crit damage by 40%. And when your follow-up attack hits, you have a chance to increase the damage taken by the enemy target by 10%. So, once again, incredible for Acheron teams. Absolutely incredible for Acheron teams. But just super incredible overall. Great for all of the usual teams that you would run him in besides DOT again. This is an amazing light cone, and I really do think it is worth it to have specifically over some other options. But sustain cones are a bit harder to warrant, except in the case of like hyacine. So if you can't really get this, I do understand. Other alternatives do exist, but I don't love them personally. Your next best options are going to be Moment of Victory, which is Gepard's signature light cone. You mainly just get the benefit of the additional defense. That's really about it. I mean, the taunt value is nice, but yeah, no, I don't think it's incredible, I'm going to be honest. It works. That's the thing. It works. Then your other option, which is very new, is Journey Forever Peaceful, which is the Battle Pass light cone. It increases the wearer's provided shield effect, and when an ally target has a shield, the damage dealt increases by a certain amount. So here's the thing with Battle Pass cones. I hate them, and I hate recommending them. So at that point, I would just say use Gepard light cone if you do not have a signature. Journey Forever Peaceful is very nice. Very, very nice, and it has probably the closest effect to what his normal light cone is. I just still hate it. Also, it doesn't offer any defense percent, which is rough to say the least, because you really want to get the max value out of that crit rate trace, since you're going to be stacking so much defense in the first place, and you still want some speed. There's this thing that people just have not realized. A faster Aventurine is still helpful. God forbid you actually need to skill. Like, people just put him on defense boots and don't have any speed. It is not a good idea. Well, okay, sorry. We'll touch on that in a minute. In terms of completely free-to-play options, oh, man. Pray you get Moment of Victory, I guess. That's, like, deadass my best suggestion. Your other options are Day 1 of My New Life, which increases defense percent, or Concert for 2, which increases defense percent. But neither of them really have, like, amazing effects. And then after that, your only other option is either like Landau's Choice, which I would not recommend personally, or Trend of the Universal Market. This specifically is for DOT teams. You get a debuff, you get some burn on the enemy, it can be helpful, and it can be detonated by Kafka and Hyacines. Oh, also it is good for Acheron. Sorry, I forgot about that. It is good for Acheron. I just still wouldn't recommend it in most cases. Now, let's actually get into his build a little bit. The newest relic set, Self-Enshrouded Recluse, has come out, and it is pretty definitively the best set for shielders in this game now. It increases shield effect by 10%, and it increases shield effect provided by the wearer by 12%. When an ally target has a shield provided by the wearer, the ally target's crit damage increases by 15%. Once again, incredible, and it's literally like his ult, or like his light cone. This is super nice. Knight of Purity Palace is still pretty good since it gives defense percent, which is, once again, very important, but overall, I do personally think Self-Enshrouded Recluse is just better for him nowadays. You do have the option of doing a 2-piece of the two, so that way you will get shield effect and you'll get defense percent. I really do think you should just do one or the other, but hey, whatever works. And now we are at Planars. I am going to be honest. Planars have never mattered less to a character. Because I don't think a single Planar in this game increases defense percent, does it? So at that point, use literally whatever you want. Me personally, I really like recommending Lushaka on any support character. I think Lushaka is incredible. If you do not have like an attack scaling DPS, that is probably the only reason to not use it. Otherwise, I think Lushaka is 100% the go-to. Some other options include Broken Keel, Penacony, Land of Dreams, Lead of the Ageless, Duran, Dynasty of Running Wolf. You have literally so many options. Pick whatever you want. It doesn't matter. You gain nothing from your Planars. On Aventurine, your planars mean so little, I'm gonna be honest. Like, this is a character who is entirely built on his substats, and none of his primary effects from, like, any of the sets matter at all. Like, let's just be real here. Now, in terms of your overall stat distribution, 4,000 defense is by far the most important thing to get. It is going to make your shields nearly impenetrable. That is your main priority. The next thing I would recommend is speed. It's going to be a pain in the ass. You might struggle to get the crit rate and crit damage. I really do think having your Aventurine at 134 speed is a benefit. It is absolutely a benefit. Put speed boots on, and instead of any other rope, just use a defense rope. His ultimate is nice. It is by no means essential. I much prefer going for speed boots as the easy thing and then hope you can get some crit stats on those, and then defense rope. If you go all defense on everything, that is fine technically, but I really gotta stress, having speed on Aven is very helpful. It is genuinely so helpful. The main area to compromise in is effect res, and then your crit damage. I think your crit rate is more important because you're already getting about 50% crit rate. At that point, focus on the crit rate because at least that is guaranteed critical damage. You're going to be getting more than like 60% chance at 120 crit damage. That's what you should really be trying to hone in on. Focus on defense, get to 134 speed, and then just try and stack up your crit rate, crit damage. I know some people will definitely recommend to get the crit damage more. I personally like the crit rate, but I understand if you just prefer to do it one way or the other. And yeah, that's everything I have to say about his build overall. We've already talked about his teams extensively, so as your last little reminder, you're going to be running Aventurine primarily with the follow-up units. You're going to be running him as an Acheron sustain, or you are going to be running him with like DOT. You can run him with a character like the Herda. I wouldn't particularly recommend it. It can work perfectly fine. Those are the main teams you're going to be looking at. Nothing too big, but still, if you have any other DPS that's literally just not an HP scaler, Aventurine is more than capable of working for them. That's something to keep in mind. It is genuinely a case where, yeah, there's like probably a more optimal sustain, but Aven is more than capable of filling in and really contributing to your team at large. All right, and I think that wraps us up, luckily. I don't know how long this was. I definitely stuttered a lot that I hopefully cut out. Okay, not too long, luckily. So, hey, this might just be under 40 minutes, chat. Let's go! With that said, I really hope you guys enjoyed this. Another fun video to make. I haven't really made one of these about a character that, like, I personally love in a while. And it's weird because that's how this series started with March 7th Hunt, because I love her design so much. It's definitely a bit strange, but I do like doing the reward queue sort of thing. And it's also interesting to talk about characters that I personally will never talk about otherwise. Because characters like Jade and characters like Aven or even Blade, I probably wouldn't have talked about them on my own. But by having people kind of, you know, request these things, I have gotten to learn a lot about this game and a lot more about the characters. It's definitely a lot of fun. Although I also wouldn't complain if one of you just, you know, requested a video about like Aglaia or Cypher. Please. With all that said, hope you guys enjoyed. Once again, if you would like to see one of these videos, go on to Twitch, become an Aeon member, all that good stuff. I got plenty more good videos coming out soon, so I will see you guys then. Bye-bye.